There is a pair of school shoes at the front door. Still in the box, black leather. The receipt inside reads $847. It is 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in February, and a 12-year-old is walking out of a house in Toorak to take the same route to the same school their father took and their grandfather before that. They will sit in the same chapel, walk the same corridors, shake hands with the same surnames. You will never meet them. Not because the world is unfair, because by the time you understood the game, it was already 3 generations old. There are 2 kinds of money in Australia. The kind that announces itself, the new car, the investment property, the renovation, and the kind that has never needed to. One kind is building, one kind is compounding, and the gap between them is not measured in dollars. It never was. If something about this already feels familiar, stay with it. In 1851, the colony of Victoria was 9 months into a gold rush that would make some men very rich very fast. By 1861, most of them were broke again. The men who kept their wealth from the 1850s were not the men who found the most gold. They were the men who arrived before the gold rush, owned the land it was found on, and had already incorporated structures that separated their personal wealth from the volatility of what happened on that land. This is not a history lesson. This is the blueprint still running in 2026. Old money in Australia has an address, not one address, a geography. Toorak in Melbourne, Point Piper in Sydney, Cottesloe in Perth, Ascot in Brisbane. Streets where the median house price in 2025 crossed $6 million, $8 million, $12 million. Streets where the houses don't go on the market because they don't go on the market. They are transferred. Here is the first mechanism you are not shown. The average Australian believes wealth is built through income. Work hard, earn more, save the difference, invest. This is the correct path for building new money. It is not how old money compounds. Old money in Australia is built through structural decisions made before the income arrives. The family trust is not opened when there is money to put into it. It is opened when the first child is born, or earlier, when the parent's accountant raises the question in a meeting that the parents' parents scheduled because their accountant raised the same question 30 years before. The superannuation strategy is not reviewed when the first employer contribution lands. It is preset by a financial planner who has served the same family for 2 decades, who knows the patriarch's intentions for distribution, who is paid a retainer regardless of whether the market is up or down.
Level 0. You have nothing. More specifically, the Australian Bureau of Statistics puts median household net worth at $1.04 million on paper. Remove the family home, remove the mortgage balance, add back the HECS debt still accruing. For households under 35, the real number collapses to $35,000. At this level, money is a daily negotiation. You earn, you spend. The balance is the gap between them. You check it after every grocery run. You call this being responsible. Old money families look at level 0 the way they look at every level, as a vehicle that is not yet loaded. Level 1. $50,000 saved. The compound interest chart starts to bend. You open a brokerage account, research ETFs, VAS, VHY. You learn what a franking credit is and realize that Australia's franking credit system is one of the most favorable tax structures for long-term investors in the world. You are correct. You are also 6 months late to the structural conversation. Old money families do not begin investment with money. They begin with vehicles. The discretionary trust is already open, structured for income splitting, understood by every adult in the household. The superannuation contribution is already set to the maximum concessional limit, $30,000 per year, because the tax benefit of super compounded over 40 years is worth more than the liquidity of those same dollars held outside. At $50,000, you are starting. They are continuing. Level 2, $200,000. Something like confidence appears. You understand compounding. You have run the calculation. $1 million in ASX dividend stocks at 4.5% yield with full franking delivers approximately $64,000 in after-tax equivalent income per year. more than the median Australian full-time wage from capital alone. The calculation is correct, the framework surrounding it is missing. When the market dropped 36% in February and March 2020, a family with $5 million in a discretionary trust held. Their financial planner called on a Tuesday morning, confirmed the drawdown, and scheduled a review for 6 weeks later. A first-generation investor at $200,000 sold in late March 2020, the exact bottom, and re-entered 6 months later at a higher price. Same market, same information, a completely different relationship to loss. The difference in outcome compounded over 30 years at 8% annual return, $2.1 million versus $3.8 million. From one decision made in 30 seconds under pressure by someone who had never watched a loss of this scale before and survive. This is not intelligence, it is not discipline, it is the station inheritance. And once you see it, you will find it at every level. Let us name the mechanisms. We call it the quiet capital. It is not money, it is the inherited behavioral architecture that old money families transmit alongside their assets. The knowledge of which decisions compound and which ones drain, held so long it no longer feels like knowledge, it feels like instinct. The quiet capital includes knowing which solicitor to call when a property deal is structured to favor the other side, understanding that the school fee is the correct spend and the car upgrade is the wrong one, knowing that the franking credit refund goes back into the portfolio and not into the renovation budget, understanding at a level below language that wealth is patient by design and that impatience is the mechanism by which new money is separated from old. The quiet capital transfers through proximity, through the conversation between a parent and a child about what the family accountant said last Thursday, through watching the patriarch make a decision that looks counterintuitive and watching it prove correct 18 months later. It cannot be purchased at any level. It can only be built deliberately over time by people who understand what they are building toward. Level 3. $500,000. The behavioral trap springs here. You are wealthy enough to feel wealthy. The car upgrade is defensible. The kitchen renovation is sensible. The private school is, well, you want the best for them. Old money families have a name for this moment. They call it the visibility trap. The moment when new money begins to look like old money from the outside and begins spending accordingly. An elite Melbourne private school charges $35,000 per year in tuition. Across 13 years of secondary education, that is $455,000. For the old money family, this is not an expense. It is a network fee. Their child will sit beside the children of board members, politicians, developers, and third-generation inheritors. These relationships will operate silently, structurally for the next 5 decades. For the first-generation family paying the same fee, they purchase the education. The education is excellent, but the education is not why the old money family is paying. This distinction, knowing what you are actually purchasing, is itself an expression of the quiet capital. Let us talk about the station inheritance. In the pastoral regions of Victoria, New South Wales, and South Australia, in the wool and cattle stations that built accumulated wealth across the 19th century, families developed something that has no name in modern financial education. They developed the capacity to hold illiquid assets through catastrophic conditions. A third-generation station heir learns this before they learn to read a balance sheet. They watch a drought write down the value of a property by 40%. They watch the family not panic. They watch a phone call, not to a banker, but to a person their father has known for 30 years, and a conversation in which the right question is asked at the right time to the right person, and the debt is restructured without a forced sale. They watch the asset recover. They understand at a level below language that the correct response to a catastrophic paper loss is not action. This is the station inheritance.
It is not money. It is a reference library for how to survive a financial crisis without making the catastrophic decision. Here is what $1.83 million looks like. 2 Australian investors, same portfolio size, $500,000 in ASX index funds. Same month, February 2020. Same event, a 36% market decline in 4 weeks. Investor A sold at the bottom, re-entered 6 months later at a higher price. Investor B held, checked the balance twice in 4 months, found the experience deeply uncomfortable, did nothing. 30 years later, at 8% compound annual return, Investor A, $3.2 million. Investor B, $5.03 million. The gap, 1.83 million AUD. From one decision in 30 seconds by someone who had or had not watched the mechanism operate before. Level 4, $1 million. Say it slowly. At $1 million invested in Australian dividend ETFs at 4.5% yield, you generate $45,000 per year in income. The ASFA comfortable retirement standard for an Australian couple in 2025 is $73,337 per year. The gap is $28,337. At $1 million, you are not retired, you are not free, you are closer than most Australians will ever be, and still $28,337 short of what the Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia defines as comfortable. Old money families crossed $1 million in accumulated capital decades ago, in many cases before the current beneficiaries were born. The dividends from that capital have been reinvesting for 40, 50, 60 years. A family trust established in 1971 with an initial contribution of $50,000, compounding at 8% annually, with distributions reinvested and contributions made at each generation, holds approximately $2.4 million in 2026. The same $50,000 held outside a structure, taxed at the marginal rate at each distribution, without the benefit of income splitting across family members, approximately $900,000. The gap between structure and no structure, starting from the same base at the same time, $1.5 million AUD. Not from better investments, not from higher returns, from structure. From a decision made in 1971 by someone who is no longer alive, whose grandchildren have never had the financial conversation in which this history was explained, because it did not need to be. It simply exists. If you have never heard this mechanism described this way before, that is not an accident. The quiet capital operates precisely because it is not discussed in public. What this channel investigates next names the specific institutions that benefit most from keeping it invisible. None of this is a conspiracy. Old money families in Australia do not meet to design systems that exclude you. There is no room in the Melbourne Club where access is decided and closed. The mechanism is simpler than a conspiracy and harder to disrupt. It is repetition. It is proximity. It is structure built before you existed, refined by people whose grandchildren are now in their 20s with more accumulated capital than most Australians will build in a lifetime. Not because of what they earned, but because of decisions made before they were born. Level 5. $5 million. This is the entry point for what the old money community in Australia considers genuine structural security. At $5 million in ASX dividend ETFs at 4.5% net yield, $225,000 per year in income. With full franking credit utilisation, a mechanism available in Australia and almost nowhere else in the world, the effective tax rate on that income approaches zero. The principal is untouched, you live on the yield, the principal continues compounding. At 7% annual growth, $5 million becomes $74 million in 40 years. This is not projection, this is the compound interest formula applied to a rate of return the Australian market has historically delivered. Right now in Australia, there are approximately 290,000 active discretionary family trusts holding an estimated $3.3 trillion in assets. Most Australians do not have one. Not because they are illegal, not because they are complicated, not because they are expensive, because no one in their family has ever sat across a table from someone who knew to suggest it. And the cost of that silence, compounded over 40 years at 8%, starting from $50,000, is $1.5 million. Not because the money was invested poorly, because the structure was never built.
And the structure was never built because the conversation that would have prompted it was never had, and the conversation was never had because the person who would have initiated it, the accountant, the solicitor, the planner who works with families at this level, does not have clients in most Australian households. They have clients in the households that already know to ask. This is what old money in Australia actually is. It is not the house in Toorak, not the private school, not the holiday house at Portia. It is the conversation that happens before any of those things exist. The conversation that a 12-year-old in Toorak is growing up inside, not consciously, not through lectures, through proximity, through watching it happen. The pair of shoes at the front door, $847, still in the box. The child who wears them will spend their life in rooms where the quiet capital circulates as naturally as oxygen. You are watching it from outside, and now you cannot unsee it. The next video covers the specific mechanism by which Australia's 4 major banks, CBA, ANZ, Westpac, NAB, generate their highest profit margins from the clients who have the least structural protection. The conversation that old money families have with their private bankers and the conversation most Australians never know to initiate are not separated by complexity. They are separated by exposure. The next video is that exposure.